Nowadays, when you browse the internet, you always run into pop-ups like these, which inform you that the website uses cookies and maybe even gives you the option to select what kind of cookies they can put on your computer. And you can choose whether you want to allow the cookies, whether you want to choose which cookies you want, or deny everything. Well, this is called consent management, and it's the most important thing right now for you if you are an online business to be compliant with, because this will help you make sure that you can run your business online without any problems. At this point, consent management or consent compliance is required by law under many international legal frameworks, including of course the GDPR, which was the first one. But then in every single country, there are similar laws that ask you to make sure that your user is aware that you use cookies, and also you have collected consent from your visitors to put cookies on their computers. And of course, this also affects everything you do, including your Google ads and ads on other platforms. So if you're running ads, to be able to create remarketing lists now, if you remember what remarketing is, retargeting, to show them ads about your products, you need to collect consent from them. And on Google, this is called Google Consent Mode V2. So you're required to collect consent for ad personalization, without which Google will not let you collect data and let you create remarketing lists. Microsoft also has similar systems. They have something called the Microsoft Consent Mode, and they will not let you run retargeting. They will not let you collect data in remarketing lists and collect data about conversions if you have not collected consent. So how do you manage consent? How do you collect consent? Well, this is done by something called the consent management platform, and Complyfi is the most powerful consent management platform out there that gets you in compliance with all those laws, including GDPR, something called the cookie law, the CCPA. There is a similar law from Brazil called LGPD. There is the Privacy Act in Australia, Payday in Canada, POPIA in South Africa. In fact, every country from Japan to India has similar laws, and Complyfi gets you in compliance with all of them, including Google's Consent Mode V2 and Microsoft Consent Mode and all other compliance requirements from all other platforms, to make sure that you can run your ads, you can conduct your business without any legal consequences and without any business or profit consequences. So let's get into Complyfi and take a look at its powerful features. So the first thing, of course, you do is add your website. Just add your domain by typing in your domain name like a title, and then you can just put in your website URL and click on add website. The next thing Complyfi does is pull out all the data from your website and check what cookies you're doing. So I've already added Technique Force, in fact, and I'm going to click on it because it's easier to show you that way. Technique Force has been added, the website URL is there, and then you can immediately access all the other sections like the consent banner. This is the banner that shows up on the website, and it's completely modifiable. You can change anything about it, like the title. Either change it on the left sidebar, which is provided to you, or just click on the item itself, click on the banner itself and change anything you want. So you can make it the exact way you want. On the sidebar, you can also select the language. So we support English and of course all the prominent languages from Europe, where the consent laws and the GDPR is really big. You can make your consent pop up appear in any language, and we have defaults, so you can choose to go with our defaults, which are suitable for most purposes, but of course you can customize them any way you want, just the way I showed you. So you have everything over here. For example, if you want to change the message to our site uses cookies, or absolutely anything you want. So you do it here or do it on the sidebar, it's up to you. Plus it has every feature you require to set up the correct consent pop-up for your website, and you can select anything. For example, if you want to go for vital analytics and marketing cookies, or if you want to introduce settings cookies, you can do that just by a single click like this. And you have a new section over here. You can also put in ungrouped cookies if you want to. So anything that you need to do on your consent pop-up is absolutely easy inside of Complyfi. Change the message any way you want. Plus, you can also disable and enable checkboxes. So for example, vital cookies are something important and you don't want people to be able to disable it. So you can disable it and people will not be able to turn off vital cookies. So it has got all the nuances covered like that, right? For every single category. And you can change the message that introduces the category. So if you have something specific you want to say here, absolutely you can do that. Plus, Complyfi also supports privacy policy link. You can either show the privacy policy or decide not to show it, and depending on the jurisdiction that you want to cover, you can choose what buttons to show. So if you want to show only the accept button and force people to allow all cookies, or you want to have allow all or decline, or if you want to let people customize the cookies, all of these options are available to you. Plus, you can decide exactly what jurisdictions to show them a particular setup. By the way, we do support customization of the templates, and we have a number of templates. We're gonna have more than 50 templates over here, and you can change the templates with just a single click and preview your compliance consent management box in the template that you want to choose. So you can go for the template that suits your website, that gels with your website, and that will look good on your website. So I'm gonna go back to deep navy blue. Plus, it also has in-depth customization through HTML and CSS. Yes, you can modify the HTML and you can modify the CSS file to get the exact look you want. So if you are technically oriented, or you have a tech team, or you have a designer, you can give them access to the CSS and the HTML and they can create the exact look they want. So that's also included. And you have multi-country compliance. You can choose to show a particular setup in a particular jurisdiction. Let's say you have created a consent management pop-up only for Africa. You can choose that. And you want to show a different pop-up in Europe and a different pop-up in North America and South America. All of that is possible. You can choose where you want to show each pop-up. And yes, you can have multiple pop-ups on your website, one for Africa, one for Asia, one for Europe, and people who come to your website from these different places will see the pop-up or see the consent experience that you have crafted for them for that particular region. That means you have complete control over compliance. You don't need to show it where you don't need to show it, and where you need to give people complete control, you can choose to do that. Plus, it has consent method management. You can choose for implied consent or explicit consent as required by law. Again, the defaults are set up and all done for you. The number one thing you need to remember is, if you go with the defaults, you will cover things globally and you won't need to do a very detailed setup. But if you want to do a complete specific setup, that's absolutely up to you. By the way, it's all about cookie consent. So Complyfi automatically detects the cookie that your website is using, automatically categorizes them, but also lets you change anything you want. So if you want to change, let's say there is a cookie that you're using and you know it's for vital and not marketing, you can recategorize that cookie, right? And it will be changed. So that way you can manage when people consent, what kind of cookies are conserved and what kind of cookies, if they don't want to accept those, or declined. Plus, you can also add your own cookies and also put the category that you want to choose for it. So again, it's for people who understand what cookie consent compliance is specifically for their website. Maybe you have a custom login experience. Maybe you have something specific going on with the cookies. Then you have got a custom website. You can put in your own experience, put in your own cookies over here and give people the option to manage them. Then you also have privacy management. And this is about consent management. Here is the thing. The law says that your visitors should be able to change consent when they need to. For example, when somebody comes to your website for the first time, they decide to opt in. It doesn't give you a license to just store cookies on their computers forever. It means they have made a preference and they should be allowed to change the preference at any time they want. And that's the point of consent or cookie management. And if you go to a website that implement it correctly, like I'm going to show you in a second, like this one, you will not only show the pop-up. If you allow all, for example, on the website, you will see a little icon that you can click to manage your consent. So it shows you what exactly have you consented to right now. So I've consented to vital, analytics and marketing cookies. It also has a unique cookie consent identifier that I can use to manage my consent, and I can change my consent anytime I want by clicking on change consent. So if for some reason now I want to change my consent, I can do that, and this is a prime requirement from a consent management platform. Of course, Complyfi meets that. Plus, it also gives you data protection officer, which is an important part of GDPR compliance. If you're selling to Europe, for example, you need to be able to give people the access to manage the data. They should be able to make requests with your data protection officer. You need to make a public declaration about your data protection officer. It should be on your website. People should be able to access it, and people should be able to make requests to that data protection officer. So Complyfi gives you the capability to set up a DPO section on your website and give people the complete information they want, including the capacity to make a claim. So yes, people can make a claim on your website. Let me try to show you that. Here we go. I'm going to allow all and change consent. There is a go to DPO section. So when your customers come in, they can see information about your DPO and also send messages to the DPO from your website. That's what's required, and Complyfi gives you the power to comply with that. By the way, if you want to not show the DPO option, if you're operating in a jurisdiction or you have a separate setup for DPO and you don't want to show it to people, you can choose to not show it, and then people will not have access to go to the DPO section. Let's go to the top again. And finally, you have consent records. So Complyfi manages the consent record of every single visitors who comes to your site. It will keep the IP address. There will be a unique ID assigned to each consent, the permissions that the user chose to give, the OS, the browser, the screen size, and the date when they decided to give you the consent. You can find any consent record by just putting in a few letters from the search, for example, like this. Click on search, and you can see all the consents that have the details, that have the UID that you put in. That way, if somebody makes a claim, you will get the consent details from them, and you can then use it to find out what they wanted to tell you. You can also search by IP if you want to. There is also a complaint record. So whenever somebody makes a complaint with you through the consent management DPO platform, you will get it in here. You will also receive an email. This is how the email looks. So you will know exactly what the customer said. This is just a test one right now, of course. So that way you will be able to adhere to the GDPR, to the cookie compliance, to the law that requires you to have a data protection officer. All of those would be covered. Plus, putting consent management, putting comprehensive compliance on your website is as easy as then copying a pixel code, just like you copy a Facebook pixel or a Google Analytics code, and putting it on your website. So just copy the code with the click of this button and paste it just above the body tag of your website, and that's all you need to do to create a complete consent management experience for you without having to do a lot of programming, lot of computation, because Complyfi just makes consent management easy so that you can run your ads and you can comply with all the local laws globally. By the way, Complyfi automatically puts you in compliance with Google's Consent Mode V2, Microsoft UET, all done by itself. You don't need to change a thing. You don't need to do a thing. It just sends the right signals to these websites, to these providers automatically. So this was Complyfi. I hope you like the software, and if you get it, I will see you inside. This is Cyril Gupta, your best friend in the business, signing off.